Welcome. In this tutorial, I'm going to introduce about loops. Now, before I go on with the introduction of loops, I would like to tell you something so that you can understand how the loop is going to be helpful while you write your programs. Say, I'm asking you to develop a program that's going to print 10 lines of hello world into the console. One way of doing this thing is just writing 10 lines of printf bluntly in my program, something like this. And if I execute this program, obviously it's going to print 10 lines of hello world and my job is done. Now if I further ask you to print 50 lines of hello world into the console, are you going to just bluntly write 50 lines of printf in this way? That will make your program large, complex and hard to maintain. Now in programs, often this happens that we need to do something for 5,000 times or 50,000 times, the same kind of activity repetitively. And this is where you need desperately something like loops that's going to help you to write such code efficiently, effectively, and that will make your program more comprehensive. So here we go. This programming example demonstrates the working of while loop. The syntax for while loop is pretty simple and straightforward. We need to mention a termination condition with the while loop. The loop iterates as long as this condition is true. You can see that this is the termination condition with the while loop, and this block of code that is called the body for the loop. Now this body is going to be executed iteratively as long as this particular condition is true. The value for I at the very first time is assigned with 1. The variable I is often termed as loop counter. The condition is tested here. When the control comes at line number 7, the termination condition is tested. 1 less than equals to 10 is true, and the control is allowed to take enter into the loop body. So whatever is written here within the body is executed one after another. So printf prints the hello world into this output console. Then the value for I is incremented by 1 and it becomes 2 now. When the loop body is over, the control gets back to the termination condition. Now again the termination condition is tested. It is 2 less than equals to 10 now. So again true, and the control is allowed to take enter into the loop body once more. So it will print the hello world once more into the console for the second time, and the value for I is again going to be incremented to 2. Now again when the body is over, the control gets back to the termination condition and it is tested again. In this way it iterates over the body of the loop, and on 10th iteration, after printing the hello world for the 10th time, the value of I here will become 11. And in that case, when it gets back to the termination condition, now in this case, the termination condition is going to be tested false and the control is not allowed to take enter into the loop body. It gets out of the loop body and the program is over. So there are three things that practically controls the loop. Number 1, the initialization for the counter variable. Number 2, the termination condition, how long the loop is going to iterate. The third one is the modification of the counter variable. We could have written this loop with some other values for the counter variable as well. It's not mandatory always to start from 1. We may have written the loop in this way. Say I could have started from 10 and I may go up to 1 by decrementing the value for I each time by 1. Now you can see that for the first time 10 greater than equals to 1, this is true, and the control will be allowed to take enter into the loop body and the hello world will be printed. Next, the value for I is going to be decremented by 1. So on each iteration, the value for I is going to be decremented by 1 and eventually it will become 0 and the termination condition becomes false, and ultimately it's going to iterate for 10 times and each time it's going to print hello world into the console. So let me just execute the program. Here you go. Hello world is printed 10 times. So this is the working procedure of while loop. We need to take care of three things: the initialization for the counter variable, the termination condition, and the modification for the counter variable. One more thing, if I omit the modification of the counter variable, what's going to happen? In that case, the condition will remain true forever. You can see that for the first time, the value for I is 10, 10 greater than equals to 1, that's true. The loop is going to iterate. Hello world will be printed. Now for the next time, when it gets back to that condition, the condition is again true because the value for I is 10 again, 10 greater than equals to 1. So I is not modified and each time the termination condition is going to be true. So the loop is going to iterate forever. So we need to modify the counter variable effectively so that ultimately the loop is over. Otherwise, we stuck into the infinite loop.